So one of the questions we get asked a lot is, how do I change the gasket on my egg? Or when do I know that I need to change the gasket on my egg? So I thought I'd just give you a run through of how to do that, how to look for when you need to do that, and then we'll change your gasket. I've got an egg here that the gasket is on its way out. I'll show you what it looks like, and I'll show you a couple of good ones and what they look like as well, so that you can make that judgment on yours and whether you need to make that change. The key thing though is to look and see whether you can see any smoke escaping around the outside of the egg, around the rim of the egg when you've got the lid shut. If you've got smoke escaping, then that's the first sign that you may need to change your gasket. But I would caveat that with, have a look and see if you've got any chunks of charcoal or little bits of charcoal or little bits of grease or build up there that's just holding that egg lid open a little bit. Maybe you just need to knock a little bit of dirt off and the lid will seal properly again, and you really don't need to change it. So let's have a look at some of my eggs. This is the egg in question. I have noticed a little bit of smoke coming out the sides at times. So if we have a look and have a look around this gasket, what you can see is it's quite black. It's got quite a lot of oils stuck on it. I'm not that careful at keeping it clean as we go. We can see there have been a couple of lumps here where there's been stuff stuck in it. Taking those out. It's all right around the back. Obviously I don't make much mess around there, but again, as we go around the other side, you can see it's starting to wear out here. Yeah, this one I would say does need changing, and I've seen smoke escaping from this one. This one, on the other hand, you can still see the little brown colour to it. If I come down to the bottom, you can see, while it is dirty, it's actually not in too bad a shape. I've got a tiny bit of underbite there, but nothing to worry about. So this one doesn't need changing. So what is the easiest way to go about changing the gasket? The first thing you need to do is remove the old gasket. Now some people will do this with their egg set up. I much prefer when I'm doing it to take the dome out of the egg, do that separately, and then put it back in when we finish changing it. So that's what I'm going to do today. Some people can get in the back, they say, and change it with it all still in one piece. I think that just makes it really awkward. It's not that big a deal taking the egg apart. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing you need to do with your egg, especially if you've got one of these bands with the Quadrolink system, the new system, is unhook the springs. So I'm just going to lift that off and unhook it from that back position and just let it dangle, and the same on the other side. And now that means that when you take the dome out of the band system, it's not going to spring open and catch you out. On the old style hinges, what you need to do is put one of the white hinge retainers on, and I'll show you that in a second. So for the old style hinge system on the large, it was fitted also to the medium, you'll have these set of 4 bolts here. What you need to do is put one of these hinge retainers across those bolts there. It's not always easy, but the purpose of that, and you may have to lift your lid slightly, push the lid down or just adjust, but you need to push that onto that, and it will stop the lid springs opening when you replace the dome. If you don't put those on, what will happen is, as soon as you take the dome and the weight of the dome out, the hinge will open up and you'll never get it shut again without damaging it. So you must use these hinge retainers and put them on both sides of the hinge. These are the tools and pieces you're going to need in order to change your gasket. So we have a 1/2 inch spanner. The egg being an American product, it's all the bolts are imperial sizes. So you need that one to undo the bands. I've got a 7/16 socket here, and that just is used to undo the bolts around the bands. I've got 2 hinge retainers. So if you have the old style band system, then you're going to need those. If you've got the new style band system, you don't need them. Obviously I've got a brand new gasket. a Stanley knife, a scraper. These are just like a wallpaper, not a wallpaper scraper, but a scraper that you can take paint off windows with, really useful. And then some nail polish remover or acetone, that will help release the gasket and get it off there and take any sticky stuff off. So that is the list of kit that you're going to need. So the back of your egg should look something like this. So what I'm going to do is, these are the carriage bolts here. These keep the top band nice and tight. On each hinge there are 2 bolts at the top and 2 at the bottom. I'm going to loosen the top ones on here and the top ones on the other hinge. And then on each of these brackets on the side, I'm going to loosen these 2 bolts here, and that will allow the egg to move in that top band so I can lift the dome out. So I'm going to go ahead and just undo these carriage bolts here using a 1/2 inch spanner. And that may be a little bit tricky if you haven't done it in a while, and you can hear that moving. But don't worry about those noises, that's all fine. I'm just going to take those off. So I've loosened all of those, and now I'm going to take this egg out, and the way I do it is put my hand through the top, and this is going to be messy. Hand through the top, and I should be able to lift the dome out. Now I'm doing that one-handed, so I'm going to stop with this for the video, and I will take this over to the lawn so you can see what I'm doing there. So this is my upturned dome. I put them directly onto a lawn just to protect it a little bit. I'm going to get the old gasket and just start to peel it away. And what you'll find is the first bits around the back are easy, and then it'll, well, this one's coming off quite nicely. But you can just peel it off as you go round. Sometimes they'll break when they've got a bit crusty, like that one. But we'll take this off. And then I can take my scraper and start scraping away any of the residue that's on there. Now this is going to take you a little while, so I'll probably stop this and come back to it when I've scraped away, but I'm just doing that carefully. So you can see I've got all that gasket off around this edge, all the way around. It's a little bit sticky still. Obviously some of this fat seeps into the ceramic. The ceramic is porous, it seeps in from the outside. And the other thing you can see is it's quite dirty in the inside, quite greasy, quite flaky. So now's a great time to get in there with a dustpan and brush, or just the dustpan part of it, and scrape out some of these loose flakes, get those out, clean it all up a little bit. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit, and then I'm going to prepare this for the new gasket going on, and I'm going to prepare it with a little bit of nail polish remover. I'm going to wash my hands first, obviously, nail polish remover, and get on there with some tissue and maybe a little bit of a scourer to get it going. All right, so I've got a bit of paper here, some nail polish remover, and I'll put that out of the way so I don't knock it over like I've just done, and get in there. And we're just going to give it a good wipe around the outside to start to loosen some of that sticky oils, any of the previous gasket glue, just to get that off. I'm going to add some more. And you can see it's already looking completely different. Got a nice smooth surface, and that's exactly what we need to stick the new gasket to. If you want, you could use a bit of old scourer, so I'll do that. A bit more abrasive, get in there and give it a good rub. But essentially that's what you've got to do all the way around, just to get this surface nice and clean, because you want your new gasket that you spent good money on to stick nicely and to stay stuck for a good few years. So I'll finish that off and then I'll come back. I've left the bottom half of my egg still in the table. I've got the spring, and I've just put those springs back on just to hold it up. So now I'm going to remove the gasket around here and perform that cleaning up process again. You may want to take the whole band system off, so undo that one bolt at the back, the carriage bolt, but I'm going to have a go at leaving it on just to do this piece. that's the bottom of my egg, and I've removed that gasket. I've scraped it all off, I've wiped it down, I've taken any gooey bits off with some acetone. I've wiped the whole lot down with some acetone, so you can see that. If I run my fingers over it, hopefully they should come out pretty clean. We don't want anything sticky or nasty under there. The idea is that we've prepared the surface so that the new gasket can stick to it nicely. So once you've done that, you then need to wait 30 minutes for this one to dry as well before we can put the new gasket onto it. There are two different gaskets kits that you can buy. This one's for the extra large, extra large and the large. And then there's another kit for the medium, mini max, small and mini, which is just slightly narrower. So if I open this up, you'll see what I mean. We can take this out of the packet. And when I say slightly narrow, it's just the width of the tape here, the width of that. It's just a little bit narrower. So this one, lengthwise, I think they're pretty much the same. But it's just the width here because the ceramics on those smaller eggs is just slightly thinner. So I'm going to be using the large, and there's enough on here to do the top and the bottom of your egg. Even if you've got an extra large egg, and there'll be some left over, so you may want to put a bit around the top of where your cap goes on. You may want to replace that at the same time. If you go onto some of the forums, you may see that people recommend other gaskets. I've personally not used any of them. The most popular one seems to be the Rutland gasket, which is it's a material very much like you get around the door of a wood burning stove. That one is very popular in the States, and what they do with that is they just put it onto either the top or the bottom, but you don't stick it on both surfaces. I've not used it. I've never seen the need. The big green egg gasket was designed for the egg. It has a patent on it, or it had a patent on it. It's made of Nomex. It's made of the same stuff as racing driver fire suits. It is much better than you'll see perhaps some black, similar sort of looking stuff, but it's black that will actually burn. This stuff won't burn. It's designed to withstand the heat, even if you're cooking pizzas up to 400, 500 degrees centigrade. The next step is to put the new gasket on. So if you look at your dome, and I've got mine turned upside down, the side with a thermometer, you'll probably find a little dimple. That designates the front of it. So we're actually going to start directly over there at the back of our egg, and that's where we'll start and bring the tape around. Either way, it doesn't matter, and then join it back up at the back. So I can see my thermometer's roughly over here, so it doesn't make any difference. I've got a slightly darker bit here, which is where the existing gasket is, or was, so I'm going to use that. So I peel that back, get it started, and then as I peel, I run my fingers around, pushing it and aligning it like that. And then what we want to do is go all of the way around. Now when I get to this point where I've got the overlap here, and what I'm going to do is use this to judge. I'm going to tear some of this tape away and use this to judge where my gasket's going to meet. I want that to be a nice tight fit. I'm going to grab a Stanley knife, which is over here, grab it like that, judge where it's going to go, somewhere there, and get in nice and tight with that knife, cut away from you, like that. You can see that's going to be a reasonable fit, so I can scrunch it up a little bit, put a little bit extra in, or just take a little bit more off maybe. So we'll do that. The tiniest amount of, like that, tiny bit caught there, and then take that last bit of tape out and then bring it round and make that join, and I'm pretty happy with that. And then you can just make sure it's sealed all the way around like that. Looks great. And then we'll go away and we'll do the bottom half of our egg.
if you look very carefully, that's where I just made the join just there. So quite neat, quite nice. You want to keep it neat so that the air doesn't escape through it. So I've hung my gasket loosely around the egg, and now I'm going to put it onto the bottom half. So I'm going to pick a bit where I'm going to start, peel back. This is probably the hardest bit, the first bit of the gasket, and put it onto my egg. And then just start peeling and aligning as we go. So we can get that in, and off we go. Just trying to line it up with the inside of the egg so there's nothing overhanging. You should have a lovely seal then. Try not to touch the sticky side and take the sticky off. It's a lot easier. It'll stay on much longer if you don't do that. Right, I'm going to move around the other side. Right, and then I'm going to get my knife again. I've got this cut across here. I made a slightly diagonal cut in the last one, so I'll make a slightly diagonal cut in this. Like that. Tear those apart. And then we'll bring the last little bit right the way around and line those two up and stick them down. Now if you end up with a tiny gap, it's not a big problem, but that one again is quite a nice fit there. They're butted right up together, and then just seal it right down as you go around. Just make sure it's stuck down, and that is looking very good. And I've got a decent amount left to be able to do a cap or something else. Now if you ever find you've had a section that hasn't stuck on your egg and it's peeled off, there's no harm in cutting a section out and just replacing part of your gasket. So think about that. But this one was pretty worn out, so I'm just going to do the whole lot, and I'm really pleased with that. The next step is to lift your lid back into place. If you've got the handle that's got the clips over the front, the newer style, you're going to pull your dome in this way. You might have to lift this slightly, and then you're going to seat it on top. So I just pull out this the band, so I know the dome's going to go in it, and then I'll grab the dome. The key to it is to have the thermometer facing towards you, so you don't have to wiggle it too much once it's in. If you get it nearly in position, then you can straighten it up when it gets in. So I'll grab the dome, put it down like that, lift these front two so it sits under. And then I'm going to go around the back and see if it is nearly straight. And the way I do find out if it's straight is I look through the cap at the top, the thermometer, look down onto the handle, and there's a screw right in the middle of the handle. And if you've got it on centrally, then pull your bands out. It should come out over the new gasket. You might have to wiggle it a bit. It's not always that easy. We'll get there. There we go. Make sure you're happy that your dome is in the right place, and then we're going to go about making sure our dome here is aligned properly. I'll take another shot so you can see what that looks like. The easiest way to align your top band is to tighten this top bolt till you get to the point where you can still move the band up and down. So you're looking to see if it will still move up and down on the egg, but it's just gripping, so there's enough tension in the band that it won't move up and down by gravity. So then you can go around and you can level it all the way around, and leveling it is the key so you're not having underbite or overbite. So that's when the front of the egg isn't level with the top isn't level with the bottom. Now if you look down here, what I'm looking for on these, and there are spacers, but a little bit of green under the gasket and a little bit similar amount above the gasket, and that all the way around the egg. So if you can see, I've got a little bit down on the front. No, we're fine. We are absolutely fine. But a little bit all the way around the egg. Both of those bands are sitting level on the egg. Maybe a little bit up there, tiny bit. but they're level all the way around. And once you've got to that point, then you can start tightening the bolt at the back. This carriage bolt at the back, can you see it's bent? If I look at it from the top, it will bend when you tighten it, when you've got it tight enough. And we advise you to do that. That means none of these will slip up and down. You can see the one underneath is even more bent. These ones, make sure nothing falls apart. So you can't over tighten them. Don't be afraid, you won't crack your egg by over tightening. So I've got these two really nice and tight now. I've only got a short spanner, but I can't really move it much more. I could move it a bit, but they're nice and tight. If these bolts are really worn out, give Alfresco Concepts a call and they'll be able to send you some new ones. But as long as you don't over tighten them too much, they should be fine. So those are absolutely perfect. Now what I'm going to do is tighten the two sets of bolts either side of the hinge. So I do that, always start on the inside. So I'm going to tighten it. I've got a wrench, but I'm only hand tightening them. So we'll do the outside, the inside one, so inside, and I'm going to do the inside one here. Then I'll do the outside, and then I'll do the outside of this one. Does that make sense? So now the hinge is attached. We've not got a gap at the back. Our hinge is on. Now I want to make sure our dome is in the right place, forwards and backwards. So I'm just going to go around the front and check that I'm happy it's aligned here, and I am. Is it sitting sideways correctly? Yes, it's not sticking out either side. So then I can go ahead and tighten these two bolts to make sure that the dome is in place. So I'll do that and come back to you. I'm really happy with the alignment of that dome. It's all tightened up. I've tightened both sides now, so just there. And I've already opened it once. The first time you open it, I suggest you put a hand in the top just in case. But it has got the catchers here on this model. But now we can open it up. It'll stay open. And the last thing to do is just put those two springs on at this back. So one from either side. There we go. Change hands. One from the other side. And what you should see is a lovely new gasket on this egg. Now the recommendation is that you leave it now for 24 hours with the lid shut for that glue to set. So I was just saying before I pressed the stop button by mistake. Yep, leave it 24 hours to set, and then you can use your egg. So I'm going to pull this shut. It's going down nicely, and that will bed in nicely. And we'll just, the thing to watch out for with these, just check there's no gaps at the back. Well, on this there aren't, and the way to do it is you can always put a £5 note or something in between these, and if you can't, if there's friction, then you've got a good seal. If it's just falling out, then you've got a little bit of a gap there, and you need to sort that out. So there you go. That's this 7-year-old egg. It's my original 7-year-old egg. It has had new bands on it, but 7-year-old egg with a brand new gasket. You know, perfect, looking good. So yeah, get your gasket changed if you need to get it changed. Thank you.